Jon Snow is an English journalist and presenter, currently employed by ITN. He is best known as the longest-running presenter of Channel 4 News. Snow has held numerous honorary appointments, including as Chancellor of Oxford Brookes University from 2001 to 2008. Early life: Snow was born in Ardingly, Sussex. He is one of three sons of schoolmaster and Bishop of Whitby, George Doyley Snow, and his wife Joan, a pianist who studied at the Royal College of Music. He is a grandson of First World War General Thomas Doyley Snow and is the cousin of retired BBC television news presenter Peter Snow. Education: Snow was educated at Independent School, Ardingly College, where his father was headmaster. In 2013, he recounted how the inquiry into Jimmy Savile had allowed him to re-evaluate his own childhood when he was molested by one of the school's domestic staff. Snow later attended the independent St Edward's School in Oxford. When he was 18 he spent a year as a VSO volunteer teaching in Uganda. After mixed success in his first attempt to pass his A-level qualifications, he moved to the Yorkshire Coast College, Scarborough, where he later obtained the necessary qualifications to gain a place studying law at the University of Liverpool. However, he did not complete the degree, being rusticated for his part in a 1970 anti-apartheid student protest, which he later described as an absolute watershed in my life. However, he was awarded an honorary degree of Doctor of Letters at Liverpool University in 2011. Life and career: after leaving Liverpool, Snow worked for New Horizon Youth Centre, a day centre for homeless young people in central London, an organisation with which he has remained involved and of which he subsequently became chairman. Snow was hired by Lord Longford. Journalist: he served as ITN's Washington correspondent and as diplomatic editor before becoming the main presenter of Channel 4 News in 1989. In 1992 he was the main anchor for ITN's election night programme, broadcast on ITV. He presented the programme alongside Robin Day, Alistair Stewart and Julia Somerville. He has won several RTS Awards, a Euro 2 for reports from El Salvador, one for his reporting of the Kegworth Air disaster and two as Presenter of the Year. In 2002 he returned to radio, presenting Jon Snow Reports on Own Word Radio, a weekly show and podcast. He wrote regular articles for the Channel 4 News website and Snowmail, a daily email newsletter on the big stories coming up on the evening edition of Channel 4 News. He is known for his vast collection of colourful ties and socks. On June 14, 2011, Snow presented the multiple award-winning investigative documentary Sri Lanka's Killing Fields, directed by Callum McRae, which documented war crimes committed in the final days of the Sri Lankan conflict in 2009. The programme consisted of some of the most horrific footage ever broadcast in the UK. Its second part, Sri Lanka's Killing Fields, War Crimes Unpunished, was broadcast in March 2012. Snow declined an OBE because he believes working journalists should not take honours from those about whom they report. Memorable incidents: whilst working as a journalist in Uganda, he flew sitting next to President Idi Amin in the presidential jet. He has recounted how whilst Amin appeared to be asleep he thought seriously about taking Amin's revolver and shooting him dead, but was worried about the consequences of firing a loose round in a jet. In 1976, Snow rejected an approach by the British intelligence services to spy on his colleagues. At first he was asked to supply information about the Communist Party, but he was then asked to spy on certain left-wing people working in television. In return he would have received secret monthly, tax-free payments into his bank account, matching his then salary. In 2003, at the height of the dodgy dossier affair, Alistair Campbell walked into the studio to rebut statements by the BBC. Without notes or preparation, Snow questioned Campbell about the affair. In 2004, Snow published an autobiography, Shooting History. He refuses to wear any symbol which may represent his views on air. In the run-up to Remembrance Day, he condemned what he called poppy fascism because in the end there really must be more important things in life than whether a news presenter wears symbols on his lapels. On February 28, 2008, Snow courted more controversy by claiming that the silence of the British media on the decision to allow Prince Harry to fight in Afghanistan was unacceptable, with the following statement: "I never thought I'd find myself saying thank God for Drudge." The infamous US blogger has broken the best-kept editorial secret of recent times. Editors have been sworn to secrecy over Prince Harry being sent to fight in Afghanistan 3 months ago. These remarks provoked criticism from some members of the public and other media outlets, with some accusing Snow of wishing to undermine the safety of the prince and his troops, and one captain in the armed forces called Snow's actions treason. On February 9, 2009, Snow interviewed Lt. Col. Yvonne Bradley, the military counsel for Binyam Mohammed, a British resident detained for 5 years at Guantanamo Bay. Snow asked if Mohammed's allegations of torture were justified. Lt. Col. Bradley said there was no doubt at all that he had been tortured. Mohammed was released and returned to Britain on February 23, 2009. In November 2010, Snow was sent to Haiti to report on the cholera outbreak. On August 29, 2012, Snow carried the Paralympic torch in the relay prior to the opening ceremony of the 2012 Paralympic Games. In 2013, Snow had a dispute with broadcaster Charlie Brooker about video games in which Snow claimed the game LEGO Marvel's Superheroes was violent. Later in the program, Brooker referred to Snow as being like a dog at the controls of an aeroplane, when he was confused at how to control the character in the game. In early 2014, he had a heated debate with comedian and actor Russell Brand, who appeared in a Channel 4 interview about his petition for a debate on the UK drug laws. In July 2014, during the latest Israeli war on Gaza, Snow interviewed Israeli spokesman Mark Regev about Israel's killing of Palestinian children, including 4 children playing on a Gaza beach. Regev responded that it was Hamas and not Israel who was responsible for the Israeli military hitting the children with an Israeli missile. Snow concluded by asking Regev, "Why won't you speak with Hamas directly? You haven't got the courage." Shortly after that interview, Snow left for Gaza to continue his reporting of the war from the battlefront. Personal life: in 1979, Snow was briefly engaged to fellow ITN journalist Anna Ford, by then ITN's first female newsreader on News at 10. For 35 years his partner was human rights lawyer Madeleine Colvin, with whom he has 2 daughters. In March 2010 he married Precious Lunga, a Zimbabwe-born academic. He was a school governor for many years at Brecknock Primary School, Camden, London. Affiliations: trustee of the National Gallery and Tate Gallery from 1999 to 2008. Patron of Prisoners Abroad, a charity that supports the welfare of Britons imprisoned overseas and their families. Chancellor of Oxford Brookes University from 2001 to 2008, regularly attending ceremonial events at the university. In 2009 he was awarded an honorary degree by Oxford Brookes, a Euro Doctor of the University. Honorary Professor and Guest Lecturer on Stirling University's Film and Media Studies course. Honorary Fellow of the Royal Institute of British Architects, an annually conferred lifetime honour which allows the recipient to use the initials Honourable FRIBA after his or her surname. Snow has an honorary degree from the University of Aberdeen, in recognition of his services to broadcasting. Chairman of the Prison Reform Trust from 1992 to 1997. President of the Cyclists Touring Club in January 2007, succeeding Phil Liggett. Patron of Reprieve, a legal action charity which uses the law to enforce the human rights of prisoners, from death row to Guantanamo Bay. Patron of the African Prisons Project, an international non-governmental organization with a mission to bring dignity and hope to men, women and children in African prisons through health, education, justice and reintegration. Patron of Media Legal Defence Initiative, a UK-based charity that provides legal support to journalists and media outlets. Patron of the tree planting charity Trees for Cities. Chair of New Horizon Youth Centre, the charity of which he was director during the 1970s. Ambassador of Ambitious About Autism, the UK charity supporting children and young people with autism. Patron of the Depex charity, a UK-based charity that produces 2 health websites, Healed Talk Online and Youth Healed Talk, featuring people's real-life experiences of health and illness. Bibliography: Snow published his autobiographical work, Shooting History, in 2004. The book was published by Harper Perennial and details Snow's life from his childhood, up to the 2003 invasion of Iraq. References. External links: Jon Snow's blog on the Channel 4 News website, Jon Snow on Twitter, Snowmail, Jon Snow's daily email newsletter, Jon Snow on the impact of new media at IIEA, September 4, 2009.